Hey guys, today we're going to be drawing the boot plant from WALL-E. I'm using the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil and the Procreate app. If you're new to Procreate, I also have a video called 25 Procreate Tips and Tricks, which I suggest to watch first because as I draw, I'll be using these shortcut actions. I will link that video below. So grab your favorite tea or coffee and let's start drawing. So here I have my reference image and I've drawn a sketch of it. And so layer 1 is the reference, layer 2 is a sketch, and then I'm going to create a third layer on top. And I've got my monoline brush and a black marker. And we're going to begin just by tracing the boot. Now it kind of gets really complicated here, so I'm gonna do the laces on a separate layer. All right, so once we're happy with that, I'm just gonna color drop into that section. And let's start with this section first with the shading. So I'm gonna grab a highlight color right here just by holding my finger there, and the color wheel's gonna pop up, and then it's gonna show up on the color palette. Then I'm going to change my brush to an airbrush, and then we're going to enable alpha lock. So click on the layer and hit alpha lock. And what this does is it isolates what you've already drawn. So as you can see, I can color here and it's not going to go outside the lines. So I've got my highlight color and I'm just going to make that a tad bit lighter. And then we're going to do some highlights. So looking at this image, the highlight is actually coming from the top left. And possibly there's some lighting over here on the right. Now I realize the boot is kind of brown, so I'm just going to change up the color a little bit from black to brown. And then we're going to grab the blending brush, which is right beside the paintbrush. Make sure that's also set up to a soft airbrush. And then we're going to blend this together. And there's a tiny bit of a crease right there. Next, I'm going to create another layer and I'm just going to put it underneath. And here we'll draw kind of the heel of the shoe. And I'm going to swap back to my monoline brush here. All right, let's merge these two down and alpha lock that again, and then we're going to blend. Actually, I'm going to take off the alpha lock because it's kind of hard to blend with the alpha lock on in certain areas. And then now we can do up here. I'm going to create another layer and move that underneath again since we're going to be shading underneath there. So I'm going to grab a black. So I'm going to merge these two now, so it's all one layer. And as you can see, there's a little bit of highlight on the rim of the shoe. So I'm going to grab this lighter color here with an airbrush. All right, and then now we can begin over here. Okay, I'm going to create a layer underneath just to do the inside or the tongue of the shoe. And I'm just going to move my sketch also to the top so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm also going to alpha lock that. And alpha lock that as well. I'm just gonna change that black border to this brown. Okay, so next we're gonna create a new layer, and this will be for the laces. So we're just gonna grab a black with the monoline brush. And just going back into the tongue layer, I'm gonna put some highlights around where the laces go in. And this time I'm gonna use an airbrush. So let's go back to the laces, alpha lock that, and then we're gonna put some highlights on there as well. All right, next let's create a new layer and we're gonna draw the plant. So I'm just gonna grab the darkest green on there, again with the monoline brush. And then we're gonna put the highlights. So let's alpha lock that. All right, so I'm just gonna disable the source image and we can put some texture on the shoe. I'm just gonna grab that color. Let's go into our brushes and go into materials. I kind of want like a grungy feel. All right, so I did go under textures this time and there's a brush called Grunge. I believe it came with Photoshop. You can check. So I'm just gonna grab a darker color actually. Just put a little bit of texture on it. I'm also gonna grab that lighter shade and do the same thing. And I'm lightly doing it. And then we can do the same thing for the tongue. Just grab a tiny bit darker than what the shade is. All right, let's group this together by swiping right. And we just want the actual illustration we drew and then hit group. And I'm just gonna move this into the center. All right, next up is the background. I'm gonna enable my source image again, and we're gonna create a new layer. So let's start at the top. We're gonna grab that blue. I've got my monoline brush. I'm gonna make a straight line just by holding it. And then it gets into kind of a lighter shade right around here. All right, so let's blur that. Go into the adjustments, Gaussian blur. All right, we're still in the same layer. And then we're gonna draw this blue part right there. This time I'm gonna use an airbrush. All right, the source image has to go back up so I can see. And then we got this last piece right there. And lastly, we're gonna do a little bit of a shadow. So seeing that this is all in one group, let's duplicate that. And then we're gonna flatten, go back into hue adjustments, saturation, make that all black. Okay, let's move that underneath the actual shoe. And then we're gonna distort this. Let's bring that opacity down. And I realize alpha lock is enabled, so let's disable that. And then we're gonna go into adjustments again and Gaussian blur. All right, let's disable the source image. And here we are. Here is your boot plant from Wally. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. For more drawing tutorials and gadget reviews, be sure to subscribe to Draw with Marina.